Michael Jordan is regarded as the greatest player of all time for many reasons, and if I spent time listing them all, we'd be adding an unnecessary amount of runtime to this video. However, one of the biggest things he's got going for him is that he spent the prime of his career with one franchise. Most people don't hold the fact that he went to Washington against him because that really had nothing to do with ring chasing or trying to advance his career, and the fact that he brought the city of Chicago 6 championships on top of that, there's just really no reason to even talk about Washington. But could you imagine a world where Michael Jordan spent the bulk of his career somewhere other than Chicago? Well, that almost happened. What's up NBA fans, Dom2K on the mic, and today on Did You Know Basketball, I'm here to tell you about the time Michael Jordan's career really almost went down the gutter. And for those of you assuming this is a video detailing the time he almost went to New York, this destination is actually much worse. So first off, a lot of people really don't know just how turbulent some of Jordan's time with the Bulls were. Here we are about 2 decades removed from his legacy, so now it's only shown in the light where he's constantly dominating the opposition and winning just about every award the NBA has to offer. However, early on in his career before Phil Jackson became the head coach of the Bulls, Jordan was not exactly happy with management, and management started to wonder if they could ever win a championship with him. The reason? Well, it's ironic because these days you always hear about how quote-unquote selfish Kobe Bryant was, and that was supposed to separate him and Jordan. However, before Jackson coached Michael Jordan, Michael had some of those same issues. Year after year, Michael would average in the high 30s, he was getting tons of personal accolades, but his team wasn't winning games in the playoffs, and it was largely due to the fact that Michael was a one-man show. Doug Collins had a hell of a time trying to coach him, mostly because Jordan did whatever he wanted as a star of the team. This caused Collins to tell Jerry Reinsdorf, who's the owner of the Chicago Bulls, that they were never going to win a championship with Jordan because his one-on-one play made it way too difficult for other players to adequately contribute to the team. Now, Reinsdorf was pretty set on the fact that MJ was untradeable, and for good reasons. We all see decades later that that was a pretty solid train of thought. However, Reinsdorf also subscribed to the theory that championships were won through defense and teamwork. So although Jordan's style of play did what it needed to sell tickets and keep the money from the fans coming in, there were doubts that he'd be the guy to win them a title. So at this point in the story, an old friend of ours, Donald Sterling, he enters the story. You probably remember him for all the wrong reasons, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, he was the owner of the Clippers until about 3 seasons ago. Anyways, this story takes place during the 1987-1988 season. Fitting right in with the theme of this video, Jordan had just won his first MVP award, averaging 35 points a game. However, the team had enjoyed little to no playoff success by this time and were about to be sent home by the Detroit Pistons. So Sterling called the Bulls and offered them any combination of players and picks in exchange for Michael Jordan off the Clippers roster. Now, as I show you the Clippers roster from that season, you know, I'd put some money down that you probably don't recognize a soul on this roster aside from Mike Woodson, and that's because he's been a coach in the modern NBA. However, what made this deal thought-worthy were the Clippers' draft choices. Being that the Clippers had 2 of the top 6 picks in the upcoming draft, this would give Chicago the option to select big man Rick Smits and now Hall of Famer Mitch Richmond. Furthermore, the Bulls figured they could use Charles Oakley and or Horace Grant as trade bait to get a point guard like Kevin Johnson, and if you don't know who he is for some reason, he was a very good point guard, even underrated I would say. So in Chicago's mind, if this deal goes down, they have a potential starting 5 of Kevin Johnson, Mitch Richmond, Scottie Pippen, either Oakley or Grant, and Rick Smits, who also had a solid career at the center position. If you know anything about any of these players, this is actually a kick-ass starting 5, and depending who's on the bench, this is at very least a contending team more than likely. However, debating the what-if scenario of this lineup is pretty useless considering that the Bulls went on to win 6 titles with the latter decision to keep Jordan. But what is worth taking a look at is Michael Jordan's career had this trade have gone down. And before we get to that, I wanted to mention that Reinsdorf neglected this deal because he simply could not move off the fact that Jordan was untradeable in his mind, and that was a pretty good decision. So anyways, if Michael is traded to the Clippers at this time, NBA history as we know flips upside down, gets tossed across the room, gets flipped horizontally, it completely changes. First off, you've got to consider that this is the Clippers we're talking about. Yes, the Clippers that literally just got their first competitive roster about 5 seasons ago by acquiring Chris Paul. The same Clippers that we basically associate anything other than winning with. If you think I'm just being mean, go to Basketball Reference and look at their season records from the season this trade was supposed to go down, all the way to the season where they got Chris Paul. They did not have anything of value in between this time or before it. So yes, going to the Clippers would have put the most iconic athlete ever in pretty much the biggest market in the country. That would have been a spectacle, but would it have had the same effect on sports culture without all the legendary moments and all the winning and success he had? It's hard to say he would have. What likely would have happened is that you'd have seen more seasons where Jordan averaged in the 35 to 37 point range, and he still would have been the best player in the league, but with no good teammates and nobody to try and influence his game differently, he simply would have been the lone star dominating in a terrible franchise. This is the part where Phil Jackson's influence on his career is so underrated. A lot of people just say Phil Jackson coached the best players and that's why he has rings, but Phil was actually a mastermind when it came to basketball and getting people to work together. The main reason you see Jordan's scoring average fall from 35 points a game in the '88 season and never reach that high again is because Phil Jackson and Tex Winter simply wouldn't let it happen. These two brought the system to the team that aimed to maximize the use of everyone on the roster rather than to just let one or two players dominate the show. Now, this isn't to say that Michael and Scottie didn't break these rules, but the culture clearly changed when they came around. Jordan even said back at that time that if Phil Jackson had coached him when he came into the league, he wouldn't have been the same player because of his system, and he wouldn't have been able to experiment enough to gain that kind of confidence. So in short, if Michael went to the Clippers that season, history would have been very different. With nobody to force a team style of play to curtail Jordan's one-on-one efforts, who knows how long that would have gone on. I will say it's pretty likely that Michael would have left the Clippers at his first opportunity because he did want to win, and that's another reason that him and the Bulls management bumped heads when he thought they were just using him for ticket sales. And even if he had to went elsewhere to play with another superstar player and win championships, we'll never know if it would have had the same effect on his legacy and if he would have really went 6-0, because that's a huge part of his legacy. Just remember that Phil Jackson's coaching really made a world of difference in his career. And that's all I've got today on this edition of Did You Know Basketball. You probably knew MJ was almost a member of the Knicks, and now you know he almost got sent to basketball's purgatory pretty early on in his career. And looking back at it, I bet you the Bulls are thanking their lucky stars that back in the 90s they talked themselves out of this trade, because that would have been a catastrophic mistake. So slightly off the subject of this video, if you guys are looking for a good read this summer, I would definitely pick up The Jordan Rules by Sam Smith, because that's the book where this story actually came from. This isn't a sponsor or anything. I am definitely not important enough to be getting sponsored by book writers and whatnot. However, when you take the time to read these books from guys that were actually around back in the 90s and they were close to the team and they have locker room stories, you really learn a lot that you really wouldn't learn elsewhere. You're not going to see it on Google. And I would definitely say give it a read if you want to learn about Phil Jackson, because a lot of people definitely have that stereotype that Phil was just blessed to have Kobe and Gasol and Shaq and all the best players, which he was definitely blessed to have them. But when you read about the effect that he actually had on his guys, you learn that he was not just a coach in place of good players and that's why he won. He definitely did things to really accelerate their career, so I recommend giving this a read. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications all summer long of my videos. I'm Dom2K, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.